All right, this is Rudy Davis on Lone Star 1776, 3:14 p.m., November 23rd, Sunday, the year 2025. And first, I want to say in order to make a video, you got to have lighting. I want to show you guys my lighting, right? So I hope this is enough for you. You guys see this? It's probably going to it's a little portable light I have to throw back here, and I have to charge it up. And yeah, obviously have to have a camera that is charged. I picked up this $15 wireless lavalier mic, so I don't have to hold the mic. You guys see that? It's $15. I hope it works. Hope you guys can hear me all right. Anyway, and then you have to have a tripod, and then you have to, it's just you got to have a place to speak where you don't disturb anybody. So we'll try to get this working, and hopefully this will work out. But I thought I would make a video because now that I got my channel back, it's kind of it's just an opportunity to kind of collect my thoughts. And if ever I have a granddaughter or grandson and they want to know what it's like to live in the year 2025, I kind of wrote some things down that how crazy this time period is. And I'll say this too: it's almost impossible to explain to somebody what it was like to live through COVID unless you live through it yourself. I mean, getting in the car in the morning, every single radio commercial, that big-breasted country and western star. See, if I didn't have the camera on, her name would be right on. I would just remember her name. But when I turn the camera on, it's like something goes on in my mind, and I have a hard time remembering names. Dolly Parton. See, I remember it comes around eventually, right? Dolly Parton, who I didn't admire all that much anyway, but when she came out with COVID propaganda song and said you're a coward for not getting vaccinated, I mean, she dropped about like 998 points on my, uh, list of disrespect. And then just seeing all these sellout, Hollywood stars and singers, actors, news people just sell their soul to push this murder propaganda. And then to see all the people on the streets line up for the shot and line up to get a swab, and to see all the incidents, and it just it's hard to explain in words how horrific that was. And I believe that the censorship of the dissenting voices was a crime against humanity, and they're still doing that today. I don't believe we have free speech today. There is one guy on my channel. He shows up every now and then, and he left a comment, and he doesn't think my channel will last very long. I guess because I talk about topics. See, I don't know what the rules are, and I'm not going to go read terms and conditions, and I'm not going to read the fine print of community guidelines. And I can't say Sandy Hook, or I can't say COVID, or if I say the word rape, I got to say grape. I mean, that's just not me. I mean, I see other social media, and they don't use the words that you would normally use in conversation because they're trying to use words that are not get hit by the censoring algorithms. Well, I don't know the algorithms, and why do I got to change my speech? It's like, so if they shut me down, that God will hold it against them. I really do believe it's a crime against humanity to censor somebody's speech. So anyway, let's. I wanted to share, like, from the, first of all, I don't get paid, and I don't want to get paid, right? I've never made a penny on any social media platform, and that is not going to change. So we say, why do you say that? I wanted you to know, like, I'm not here to grow an audience. Matter of fact, almost every video you watch, please, they're going to pause, right? And they're going to play some short little brief intermission where they pitch to you to go hit the subscribe button. Don't hit my freaking subscribe button. I don't care if you hit it or not. Matter of fact, if you don't hit it, it's just fine. The world is just fine if you don't subscribe to my channel. You don't have to watch my videos. I could care less. So I'm a contrarian, right? Don't hit my subscribe button. That's what I'll tell you. Don't watch my videos. I'm making this video for God will somehow get the people that need to watch this, right? And I don't care if you subscribe or not. I could care less about the numbers. It's just an opportunity to share some thoughts. Also, when you don't get paid, you don't have to worry about what you say, because you're not going to piss off your donors, or you're going to lose half of your donations or whatever. And So if I was to speak to a grandson or granddaughter in 20 years and they were to watch this, because I might die and this might be the only video they have of me, the first thing I would say is the King James Bible is God's perfectly preserved word to you in the English language. From my last video, I saw all of you naysayers. Well, you should learn to speak Greek and Hebrew, and if you can't do it, you can't learn what God has to say to you. So in your mind, you don't have a perfect Bible, right? You've had, I don't know, over 400 years to like correct all the mistakes, and all these manuscripts, and to come out with a perfect Bible, but yet you haven't done it. And you think that uh, in your mind, you've got to go study other languages and I've heard preachers say the English is not enough. Like you've got to go learn other languages to truly understand what God has to say to you. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my life. Um, to what you're doing is you're lifting up scholarship of your mind rather than obedience to God's word. And in your mind, and in your scenario, you don't have a perfect word of God that has been preserved. You have scholarship that you're lifting up the scholarship of man. Listen, I don't want to get into the King James thing. I already made a video on that. I know a lot of you guys don't have a perfect Bible. That's your problem. I'm sorry that you don't. But I wish that you did, but you don't. You're just going to live your whole life and you're not going to have a perfect Bible. You're going to have your scholarship, right? All right. I want to say to anybody that wants to listen to this 20 years from now, friends are highly overrated. 99% of so-called friends are going to betray you, stab you in the back, use you, cause you trouble, pain, ask you for money. Let me say this, I have a lot of friends that subscribe to this sovereign citizen thing, and they don't even call themselves sovereign citizen. That's probably an FBI, CIA term. But let's say they're freemen on the land, or however they want to word it. They don't sign their name in regular, ways. They don't believe in the gold fringe flag. That's fine. I think they're probably right about a lot of their arguments. I, Listen, I didn't mean to go off on this tangent, but just to finish that thought, you can be right all day long, but the analogy that I would give is you're at an intersection, and we're talking about the color of the light, and we're trying to decide what the color of the light is, and you're telling everybody that it's green. You're saying that I see it and it's green, that I've got legal documents that prove the light is green, and I've got two witnesses or maybe four witnesses. I got lots of witnesses that say the light is green. So I'm right. The light is green. Right? I'm acting like you do when you're a freeman on the land or whatever, and you're talking about how America's a corporation, and I'm not even saying you're wrong. But I'm saying is you're going to convince all these people that the light is green. America's a corporation, and we're under slavery and tyranny. You're not wrong, right? But you're going to proceed through the light because you've convinced everybody that the light is green. Well, the enemy takes an 18-wheeler full of gasoline, and they just like plow right into you, and there's a big explosion. It doesn't matter that the light was green. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's like they don't care what the rules are when they get into their court systems that the light was green. They don't care. They're going to throw you in jail, kill you, murder you. They murdered David Hinkson, right? They murdered him. And there was some lady named Mary Lou that falsely reported that David and I were trying to create a business to sell stuff from the prison and fraudulently, take money from people. And that caused them to stop the prison that stopped the prison from allowing David to communicate with me, and then he died. He died from cancer, and I believe they gave him cancer. Very likely they murdered him. And so I don't like Mary Lou that much. If you're watching this, Mary Lou, just know that I don't like you at all. I think what you did was horrifically evil. False accusations is a thing of the devil. And, I've kind of gotten used to it, but it was horrible what Mary Lou did to block our communication with David Hinkson, a few months before they killed him. Anyway, friends are highly overrated. The 1% that you do find, I find as I get older, I don't want more friends in my life. But the 1% of friends that you do have, cherish those. Hang on to those, because those are very rare individuals. But most people will abuse you, and cause you a lot of pain. This is a way that I live my life. I don't expect anything from anybody, and I'm never disappointed, right? I don't expect anything from anybody. I'm never disappointed. And so when somebody doesn't do something that would be normal or proper etiquette or whatever, or I don't care. It's very hard to make me upset or offend me. Although I do get upset in traffic, and I got to work on that a bit. I will admit I do have some problems with that. But just from a relationship perspective, because I don't expect anything from anybody, I rarely get upset at what people do or how they think. Or, you're not going to upset me because I don't expect anything from you. I think if you live life like that, you're a lot less frustrated and disappointed. Appreciate the time in which you're living, and small steps add up a lot. So when you wake up in the morning, you've only got a certain amount of hours to accomplish things. And so these small, do what you can every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then over the course of a week, those small steps that you might have spent a few hours on every day, they add up, right? And so don't just, hide under the covers and watch YouTube videos all day. Of course, I'm sure you guys have heard of artificial intelligence. There's something called AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which means that artificial intelligence will generally become better than humans at practically all tasks. And then we're going to have 99% unemployment. And, that's where you need to be a plumber or an electrician or a construction worker or a roofer. Even driving jobs will be taken over, right? If you drive a truck or drive anything, that'll be done with automatic driving. But there's going to come a time where we have AGI, and they say that's not too long from now, like 2027, and that we'll have 99% unemployment. Well, you need to be able to be comfortable enough in who you are and your skills to live in this world that it doesn't bother you, right? You don't need to go, you don't need a structured work environment where you go punch a clock, or you have a boss that tells you what to do, or some company gives you, a list of items that you have to complete in a 40-hour work week. You need to have a independent mindset and lifestyle where you feel comfortable on how to fill your time when there's 99% unemployment, and they put us all on basic income or whatever it's called, unified income or basic something, universal basic income or something. Anyway, you just need to be independent of the system and out of that, right? You don't want to take the mark of the beast so that they can control what you buy and sell. So what I'm trying to say is, whether you're learn a trade, right? Learn to build a shed, learn to be a carpenter, learn to do plumbing, learn to be a roofer. You know, you can learn to do something that you can use if you ever have to live on a couple acres in the woods or something. Following Jesus and putting Jesus number one in your life, that's obviously most important. Don't allow others to shame you or for how you live or for your belief systems. Some of the best conversations I've had is with people who are what's called dumpster divers, and I don't shame them. Matter of fact, I won't go there, but we have really good conversations, and so don't ever shame anybody on how they live a life. So college is a scam. You're completely wasting your money if you go to any big school and have them train you in anything, because it's almost for sure going to be taken over by AI at some point. And plus, they indoctrinate you and they make you think all kinds of things that are going to be detrimental and anti-biblical. If you're considering joining the military, don't. I never joined the military. My dad told me not to, but he was in the Marines. My brother was in the Marines. But, it's as a man, I understand why a young man would want to go join the military. And some of my best friends are veterans, right? They've been in the military. But there's a book by Smedley Butler called War is a Racket. And as a young man, you want to be, bigger than something. You want to be bigger than something that's just yourself, right? You want to be part of a brotherhood, but it's all bankers' wars. They're gonna enlist you to do the bidding of bankers and the elite, and they're going to use you. And I'm not to say there isn't some great skills you could learn going into the military. I'm sure there are, but you could learn those skills and discipline outside the military. Why do you have to be in a structured work environment where some jarhead military guy is yelling in your face for you to have discipline? I mean, can't you develop discipline on your own? Can't you get out of bed early, make your bed, go do a hard run, go exercise? You can push yourself. You don't have to have some structured environment where you lose all of your dignity and humanity, and you're uh, have no choice in the decisions that you make on your lifestyle. Because in the military you have very little leeway. They pretty much control your life for the time that you're enlisted, and so. I would just advise any young men considering the military to read the book by Smedley Butler, War is the Racket. And, why not consider that you can develop your own discipline on how to live your life, right? Rather than having the military teach you that kind of thing. You can, do training for, arms and ammunition, and you can do that. I mean, there's nothing preventing you from doing that. To learn how to take apart a gun, put apart a gun, do sniper training at a gun range. You don't need to go to the military. I mean, all of that stuff you can learn yourself. YouTube is a university. Social media has tons of videos on that stuff. I know a lot of you guys don't agree with me on that, but all these false flags, we'll get into that too. So anyway, I don't even know how long I've gone, but I wanted to start now with what's it like living in the year 2025 in the post-murder apocalypse of COVID, where lots of people died from propaganda and medical malfeasance and this false narrative that they just put out, right? And everybody knows somebody that's probably died from COVID, murdered by a hospital, put on a ventilator, and there's videos you can learn about all that. Okay, so I would say in the year 2025, we're inundated with individual single murders, like horrific murders that play on racial tension. And I'm going to give you just an example that I came up with just shortly before the video started. And I'm sure this is just a small little smidgen, right? But this Anthony Carmelo murdered Austin Metcalf in broad daylight. A lot of racial tension in that particular murder with a knife. And he's out. He'll be out. He's been out for a whole year. He didn't even like have to sit in jail waiting trial. I just consider that like, what if that was turned around 180 degrees? Do you think Austin Metcalf would be out of jail for a whole year while they're setting up trial? And there's a lot of and so let me say this too, because we live in this AI society, it's hard to discern what news stories are real and what news stories aren't real. I mean, it's like a Potemkin village, and you can go look that up, Potemkin village. It's like there's more traffic on the internet that's from robots than from real people, and news stories are generated, fake news stories. And so I'm assuming that the news stories I'm referring to here are real people. I mean, I've never met them. So that's another thing about living in the year 2025 is you don't know what news stories are actual real people or a fake news story, right? It's like, well, I think this might be fake. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't know. DeCarlos Brown Jr. stabbed and murdered Yaruna Zarutska on a train. And that was a horrific video. And I'm assuming that's real. But that's it's a breakdown of the criminal justice system. He should have been in jail a long time ago. But there's racial tension in that murder as well. And, there was a guy in Dallas who killed 5 cops. I don't have a phone on me that I can look it up, but I should know his name. Anyway, I strongly believe that he did that because he saw all these videos of young black men getting harassed and murdered by the cops. But I can't think of his name right now. You guys, I'm sure, can look it up. Just look up Dallas sniper killed 5 cops or something like that. Okay, so Sonia Massey was a black lady in a kitchen, and she was murdered by Deputy Sean Grayson. That's another racial tension murder. And I don't think, first of all, I don't know if it's real, but let's say it is real. If that's real, Sean Grayson should get the death penalty, just like I believe DeCarlos Brown Jr. and Anthony Carmelo. I think Anthony Carmelo should be considered for the death penalty if he murdered Austin Metcalf with a knife, unprovoked, Lawrence Reed burned alive a woman recently. I don't think she's been identified yet, but that was after Sebastian Zepeda Khalil burned alive Deborah Kawam. Debrina Kawam. So there's racial tensions in that one as well. So you got these mentally ill young black men or middle-aged black men, and they've been taught their whole life that the white man is the problem. And I, as a hobby, I collect yearbooks, and I got yearbooks from all over the country, including HCBU, historically black colleges and universities, HBCU probably. And I've looked, you can look at this yearbook, you can go through it, and you can see a snapshot of the culture of that particular school. And we've been teaching young black people for over a decade or more that white people are the problem, white people have oppressed them, white people need to be eliminated, and white people, slaughtered the Indians. And so these young black men grow up and they've been indoctrinated by colleges, universities, and professors that white people are the problem. And so um, because they buy into that, that's, your belief system drives your behavior, right? And so the fact that some of these crimes may have been fed by belief systems and ideology like that. And then there's also the reverse of that. I mean, I understand it goes both ways, right? But there was kids attacking a mother in Chicago, and then we have if you really want to freak out and like just blow your mind on like something that'll, most people you don't want to dwell on things like this, but the murder of Shannon Christian and Christopher Newsom in 2007, that for some reason has never left my mind. It circles around, and I just can't get it to ever leave. So what's it like to live in the year 2025? Well, first of all, we just hear about murders all the time. There's news stories about horrific murders, burned alive, stabbed to death, unprovoked. You're minding your own business in a train or a subway. Boom, here comes another murder. Just a horrific, and it's all on video too. So that's what part of it's like living in the year 2025. And living in Texas, we have guns. So, and then not only just the murder, but then seeing the bystanders like not do anything. They don't try to help, or they don't try to get involved, and they don't try to stop it, or, and there was another instance that just came to mind. There was a lady standing on the corner of a Dallas street corner in broad daylight, and a guy runs up in the back of her and just whacks her on the head, puts her in the hospital. It looked like she died. I mean, I would be surprised if she lived. I think she did live, but I would, it's shocking that she did. And then after broad daylight on the corner, he whacks her like with a crowbar, really hard. She drops like a rock, just boom, And there's bystanders walking right on by. They don't check on her. They don't look her way. They saw it. It's just, there's something wrong with society at a very deep level. That's what it's like to live in the year 2025. We have natural disasters, this Texas floods that killed these people, young Christian camp goers, young girls. And then you have the enemy, of Christianity, like laughing and giggling and glad that they all drowned. And then I told you about artificial intelligence. We talked about that a little bit, but 99% unemployment is predicted by some people in the year 2027 when we reach something called not AI, but AGI, artificial general intelligence, where artificial intelligence basically does every task better than humans. So they're going to have a universal basic income, and everybody's going to be sitting on their butt, like learning how to paint like Bob Ross or something. I don't know. Well, it doesn't bother me because I'm never bored. My wife and I can always figure out something to do, right? But for most of humanity, if they don't have a job, we could have pandemonium in the streets. I don't know. I mean, most people can't handle a non-structured work environment where they're just independent and they're doing something that betters, reading books, or, you're learning a new language, or you're solving a Rubik's Cube, or you're learning to play chess, or, there's lots of things you could do with your time. But if you just throw all this extra time at humanity and you feed them, I think there's a rat experiment called rat experiment number 26 or something. I mean, they start eating each other and homosexuality goes through the roof, right? I could be wrong on the name. For some reason, I'm thinking it was called rat experiment number 26 or something. Like I said, you turn the camera on, I can't remember any names. But anyway, it's hard to discern in the year 2025 real news from fake news. And I believe there are a lot of fake news stories. And I put Sandy Hook in that arena, by the way. And not only that, but when you look at comments and the chat, that all the just the chat and the what you think was probably coming from a human being, even videos. Like if there's a video of a man sitting in front of books and he's talking, like me, you guys don't know if this is really Rudy or you don't know if it's like some AI portrayal of Rudy, right? It's hard to tell. And there are videos that are AI videos of guys talking and it's not a real human being. So uh, it's very strange. It's very strange to live in a world where it's hard to discern. It used to be that if you were a younger guy and had grown up with computers, you could figure out what was fake and what was real. And it was only the older folks, like people in their 70s and 80s, they couldn't figure it out because they just hadn't grown up with it, right? But now it's even the younger folks are having a hard time discerning fake from real from fake. So also you got this UFO disclosure. There was some Dr. Greer. He was like saying for sure they're going to disclose UFOs before the presidential election. Did he ever apologize? Do these false prophets like ever come out and apologize for all the false things they say? I'm just curious. But anyway, we live in a world where UFO disclosure and even Congress it's just UFOs and aliens are going to be told, they're going to tell us about it just in any day now. Any day now, we expect the camera to be placed on an alien and he's going to welcome himself and he's going to tell us, he's from planet Zebob and, he's here to save us from ourselves. And if we'll just listen to what he has to say, he's here to serve humans. Well, he ain't going to tell you like that Twilight Zone episode. He's not here to serve humans as the way you think about it. He's here to serve you in like a boiling pot to eat. Three Eye Atlas is, if we're to believe there really is space and we're not living in a dome and a flat Earth, Three Eye Atlas is like going around, and NASA has spent billions of dollars for this telescopes, and they give us a real grainy footage of a white dot that's fuzzy. But these so-called amateurs with their little binoculars and telescopic lens, they can zoom in with their $200 telescope and give us a pretty detailed image that's a lot better than NASA anyway. So anyway, UFOs, aliens, disclosure, Three Eye Atlas. I mean, it's just constant, blah 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 all the time. You just expect any moment now they're going to put an alien on camera and he's here to help us save ourselves. And we were seeded by aliens and the Bible's not true. That's what they'll say, right? Chemtrails go on all the time. HAARP, Gwen Towers, radiation. There's a lot of theory that there was nanoparticles in the vaccine, and now they're going to use Gwen Towers to put voices in our head, and they've already got lollipops that you can put in your mouth, and it will play a message, and it's like a kid's Christmas toy in the year 2025. You can't audibly hear it, but if you put it in your mouth on your teeth, I think it goes through your bones, right? And they can play voices. And it's like that's pretty weird, right? That's strange stuff. So you got a complete loss of faith for intelligent people in our educational systems, the colleges, universities, school systems, a lot of homeschooling. A lot of people are pulling back and going into the woods. Your political systems, nobody has faith in the political systems. The health systems, nobody has faith in the health systems, at least that I know of. My dad did have faith. He even up into his dying, he just couldn't imagine not doing what the doctor said. I think a lot of the older people were raised to believe that doctors tell you the truth and they want what's best for you. But the younger generation, I think, has figured it out. They're not listening to the doctors nowadays. So you got a loss of faith in your health system, loss of faith in your science. Neil deGrasse Tyson is a joke. He's like some kind of con artist man put out forward to, I I could say something, but he's just like a con man that's been put out by the establishment to give a fake narrative. Neil deGrasse joking. People have lost faith in news and journalism because there's certain things they won't talk about. They won't criticize Israel. They won't talk about certain news stories. It's all like controlled and manipulated. Taxes are outrageous. Your property tax is going to drive you into the poorhouse. So you don't really own anything. You have to like rent it. And if you can't come up with a property tax every year for your property, you can't own your property anymore. They're going to kick you off, right? So you don't have ownership of property. You have like rental from the government as long as you can come up with your taxes. There's war. You got war in Ukraine. There's the Palestinian war where there's genocide over there. You got war, right? The Bible talks about wars and rumors of wars. They're trying to drive a civil war here in America. We'll see if that actually happens. And then you got, earthquakes, volcanoes. Um, you always have those, but it could get worse and worse. And the Bible talks about that will get worse and worse. We've had a high profile assassination of Charlie Kirk, and it just doesn't add up. You got the rise, the enemy would call it the rise of anti-Semitism, but I would say it's the rise of proper questioning of what's really going on. And Candace Owen, Tucker Carlson, others as well, Stu Peters to some degree, he made a video about snake venom in the water, but what I'm trying to say is that people are questioning the role of Israel. They're questioning the assassination of Charlie Kirk. A lot of people believe they were not told the truth, and Tyler Robinson did not do that on his own. And so I believe we're also subject to more high-profile assassinations. Remember at the beginning, I started off with all these individual murders, like people being burned alive on the subway and the train stations and stabbed, and people being attacked in broad daylight. But we could also have other high-profile politicians and actors and actresses, and the CEO. I forget the guy's name that killed the CEO of the healthcare insurance program. Anyway, it's on the tip of my tongue. But he got he was getting like fan mail. People thought he did a great job killing that guy. But I believe we could be seeing a lot more high-profile murders, and who knows if these murders are even real murders? I mean, I believe it's right to question, like maybe a high-profile person gets such huge publicity, they want to fake their death to get out of the limelight, and they just want to go back to an anonymous lifestyle, so they fake their death or assassination. I believe that's possible. I don't know that it occurs all the time, but it's certainly something that's within the realm of possibility, and it's not wrong to question that. Um, we're on the verge of digital ID, cashless society. They're going to take all our cash away. They stopped making the penny. We're on a social credit system, that is truly the mark of the beast. I mean, they can control what you say, and if they don't like what you say, you ain't getting on a bus, you ain't getting bread at the grocery store, you're not going to sell anything, you're not going to like participate in their reindeer games at all. And so, cashless society, digital ID, social credit system, total control over your behavior, right? Even though we just been through COVID, there's always another version of COVID that's just around the corner. They killed a bunch of ostriches, I believe, in Canada. There's another bird flu. We got a rising measles, and so I don't know. Polio's coming back, I guess. I don't know. It's like there's always some big thing that's just around the corner that's going to wipe out humanity from bacteria and viruses, and they're always keeping us scared on that. Not to mention that we've been through like a decade of being scared to death about global warming and climate change, and now they're backing off that because most people are figuring out it's a bunch of hooey. But do they apologize for all the crap they said? And I remember like having to listen back when I had a real job and a real paycheck. I was working for a real company. I remember having to go into meetings and listen to this crap about climate change and how our company was going to be zero carbon footprint and crap like that. Oh yeah, the financial collapse is just around the corner. In the year 2025, in November, gold and silver skyrocketing. I got to say, COVID made me understand how stupid humanity is. But Bitcoin is another thing. If you've invested in Bitcoin, you might have made a lot of money. I don't know, but I just think that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life. Uh, a fake coin that tracks all of the transactions, and you can't get to it unless you can plug it into a computer and the internet. It's not anything you can hold in your hand. I mean, the fact that went so high value, kind of like EFT, right? Electronic fund transfer, or people bought a picture or a cartoon meme. It wasn't even a real thing. It wasn't a real painting. It was, what are they called, like EFT? I mean, it's just insanity. The unlimited ability for people to be stupid is almost beyond our ability to conceive that. because they can go stupid really, really hard on a lot of things. But the fact that people think Bitcoin is worth uh, a lot of money and valuable is just insane to me. Absolutely insane. Um, and then we have the continued moral collapse of society, where they call evil good and good evil. Matter of fact, one of the most popular movies last year was Wicked, and they make a black, queer, bisexual. I think she calls herself a woman, but I've seen some pictures. He looks like a guy. The hands are really big. It's hard to say, right? Evaro. Anyway, they make the Green Witch, and our young kids are watching this. It was look. You're gonna say, did you watch it? I have to watch. I don't have to, but when somebody with a Christian morals watches a film like that, I don't watch it to like be entertained or to think it's a fun time. I want to see what they're programming our children with, right? And a lot of children watch that movie, right? A lot of children watch the movie Wicked. And so they paint the evil witch as the good witch. And she's standing up for animals, right? She's not standing up for humans. She's standing up for animals that are put in cages. And so I've always said, and my wife has said this more than me, that people care more about their dogs than they do innocent political prisoners. Um, so they're trying to paint evil as good and good as evil, and they did a great. This you're going to think what I'm about to say is heresy or blasphemy, and if it is, God forgive me. But the devil knows how to make good music and good films. I think he had a music background, right? Something like that. And, you know, some of this rock and roll songs that are so devilish, AC/DC, man, it's like it is very tempting and luring. And you have to have a strong constitution to recognize that stuff. And it pulls in a lot of people because of the beat and the musical instruments. And to deny that, you're just denying reality. And so you say, well, you shouldn't give place to the devil. You shouldn't say that he's good at music or good at making films. You may be right. Maybe I should ask God for forgiveness on that, but it just seems to me we have to acknowledge that a lot of humanity is pulled in by devilish music and devilish films. And if you don't even acknowledge it, well, how are you going to battle it? The first thing you have to do when you fight any problem is you got to acknowledge that the problem exists, right? Anyway, so what is it like to live in the year 2025? Well, they're calling evil good and good evil. It's crazy. You have to be intentional about homeschooling your kids and withdrawing and seeing past the lies, constant lies all the time. You have to be intentional about how you occupy your mind, and you have to be intentional about spending time in God's Word. And I'll end the video with Philippians 4:8 because I think it gives us a good idea. It says, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. So that's why I said in my last video, if I was on my deathbed, right, and I wanted to relay to somebody, like, you only have like 120 seconds before you draw your last breath. What are you going to tell them? Go find a King James Bible and all the instructions that you need for how to battle and how to deal with all the wickedness that I just covered is in that Bible, right? It's one thing to say this is the devil's playbook and look at all his fancy playbook that he's got coming against us. And it's another thing to hold up the Bible and say this book is a living book and it's written by God and it's been perfectly preserved and it tells us exactly how to deal with all this stuff that we're in the middle of. And a Christian behavior shouldn't change. It don't matter if you're living in good times or bad times. I don't know that, I feel like I'm a very blessed man. I know that I am, and I give God the glory. But it doesn't matter if you're under great trial and tribulation or you're feeling very blessed. Your behavior should be the same, and that's to glorify God, right? You glorify God and you point others to Jesus. I hope that's what you're doing. And I got to go see if my audio and my video actually took, because I can't see the other side of the phone. God bless you. Happy Sunday, November 23rd, 2025.